You can now subscribe and save 20% every single time with a Strava Craft Coffee subscription. We know a bunch of you have taken advantage of the one-time code, and now you can save 20% on your favorite coffee forever. You'll never have to put your credit card info in again. If you've never tried the rich CBD-infused coffee, you can use code DNVR20 and save 20% off your first order. But if you're a huge fan, you can now save 20% off and have them send it to your door every 2, 3, 4, 6, or 8 weeks without you even having to think about it. Obviously, in Colorado, getting closer to having to stay home a lot more, so you might want to start avoiding those grocery store trips as much as possible. Well, this is a perfect way to do so for your coffee. They'll send it right to your door, and you'll save 20% off. You won't even have to put in your credit card information each time. So head over there to Strava Craft Coffee and either use that DNVR20 code or have them send it straight to your door at the interval of your choice. It's a great deal. Let's jump into the show.
Number one for the one and only DNVR. 2 goes out to Zach, Mace, RK, and the bar. 3 for Mr. B in that old trophy case. Number 4 we're still waiting for. Well, bring on the chase. Out on the field, no matter how Broncos win is our desire. Couple with a wreck, crew and a friend, bleed orange and blue till the bitter end. Come and join us, DNVR. We are DNVR.
Welcome in to a Friday edition of the DNVR Broncos podcast presented by MSU Denver Online. And guys, before we go too far at all, want to wish an extremely happy birthday to our member Onion Booty Bronco, also known as Connor. His girlfriend reached out to us, and she was very diligent about hoping that we could give him a shout out here on the podcast. So least we could do is do it right off the top. Connor, it looks like you got yourself a keeper.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy birthday, Connor Onion Booty. And what a way to kick off this Friday Bum Talk Pod than a happy birthday to Onion Booty Bronco.
That's the thing. You got to say it right.
Well, go ahead, Mace.
I learned from you.
Exactly. You tip the cap to Steve Atwater. Anytime Jake Butt came up, it was Booty. So, Onion Booty Bronco. May you have the best of birthdays. May this day be the opposite of 2020 for you.
Yes, absolutely. And before we go too far, also a shout out to the presenting sponsor of the show, MSU Denver Online. It's the Colorado institution providing rigorous and affordable online programs taught by professors who bring the real world into the classroom. So much going on down there at MSU Denver, 750 total classes, tons of different ways to get in on it. I'm now realizing I'm the only one who didn't put on my Hawaiian shirt Friday, and I'm feeling quite left out. But you know what? I just need to get more educated about the types of days we have over here. And maybe I'll just head down to MSU Denver Online to try and get a little smarter. But seriously, MSU Denver Online, great option for you if you're looking to further your education, especially as, like I said, in Colorado, going to be probably hanging out around home a lot more these days. So use that time to further the education.
My boys, what a day we got here. A little bum talk, a little special birthday day. And guys, not only do the Broncos play in 48 hours, but we have In-N-Out Burger opening in Colorado today. What a big day.
Well, congratulations. Colorado became more California-like. Yay. Let's be happy about that.
California is pretty awesome, but okay.
California is awesome in California.
Yeah.
I think Ryan intentionally didn't wear the Hawaiian shirt because he didn't want anything to do with bringing any more California sun beach vibes to Colorado today.
They're called Hawaiian shirts.
No, they're actually Aloha shirts.
That's a different state entirely.
It's close though. It's close.
It is the closest. Yeah. I don't want to talk about In-N-Out.
Well, you can't get the first one because the line, it hasn't even opened and the line is already very long.
I'll just, if I'm craving a burger today, I'll just go right down the street to Good Times and get a Colorado homemade burger.
Well, you can't be Good Times. Good time. Their fries a million times better than In-N-Outs, Ryan. I'll give you that.
Now you're speaking my language.
Well, you got to order the crispy fries at In-N-Out. But hey, if I go to Good Times, I'm getting the frozen custard. Do they still have the Oregon blackberry on hand over there?
Mace, it says right next to it, just for Mace, Oregon blackberry.
Bingo! All right, that's the best. That's the best stuff, man. I mean, I'm not the burgers. Okay, the frozen custard, amazing.
If they called it Colorado blackberry, I might like it a little more. Anyways, Broncos got a game this Sunday. I've been saying all week that I didn't think Drew Lock was going to play. And now it's starting to feel like Drew Lock might actually play, which, we've used this word a lot of times on this podcast. That might be malpractice because you've got yourself a hurt quarterback going up against probably the most aggressive defense in the NFL right now. They do not care. They honestly don't really care what happens. They just want to hit the quarterback.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing for the Broncos right now is if Drew Lock goes out there and gets hurt and gets banged up middle of the game, he either puts out another poor performance because he's not feeling too well, or he's then sidelined a week or two because of that. That's what Mason and I talked about earlier this week. The Broncos have to make this decision to get Drew Lock the most reps the rest of the season. Now, if they don't think that he's going to be impacted at all, then yeah, you put him out there. If he is going to be impacted and there's a chance that it impacts him further, you don't put him out there. And especially against this defense that likes to blitz 40% of the time, Drew is just simply going to be hit. So how fully recovered truly is he by Sunday?
Yeah, and that's why it was interesting to hear the way he talked about what he did in practice yesterday. Basically, that he would kind of go in for a play and then he would come back out. So you wonder if maybe the practice workload yesterday was just about trying to kind of test him, and then wakes up in the morning, they see how he feels, and maybe gets a little more. I actually wouldn't be surprised though, if just to keep the Dolphins guessing and keep everyone guessing, if Vic Fangio pulls the old Mike Shanahan and says, you're gonna have to watch the game on Sunday to find out who our quarterback is.
That's what I would do if I was
Why not?
Broncos. Yeah, there's no reason not to.
Yeah, maybe that will give people one reason to watch.
Oh, come on.
You know what? The In-N-Out talk. I'm in a spicy mood now.
You're in an animal style mood, Ryan.
No, remember, I actually learned that animal style is what ruins it for me. Yeah. One time I tried it without animal style. I was like, oh, okay. So now it's just a normal burger. It went from like on the negative side of the scale to neutral. Anyways, I think, yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of a lose-lose for the Broncos. And because of that, I'm kind of looking at it the way you're just mentioning, Zach, which was like, you got to do the thing that is going to allow Drew Lock to have the most reps the rest of the season. And that, on the surface, that sounds like, okay, well, then you obviously play him. But if you play him and he gets hit 30 times and further injures, those ribs, and maybe that's a little bit hyperbolic. So 20 times, which actually might be legitimate. And then you got to sit him next week. And then, then there's the whole, well, we already put him out there once when he was at, 70%, and all he did was have a setback. Now you got to set him back 2 weeks. It's not a good situation either way around, but just and maybe you can't make decisions based on your opponent, but from my chair, you can. And my decision would be rest Drew Lock this week because of the opponent, because you know what they're going to do. And honestly, the fact that the quarterback is banged up makes me think they're going to want to tee off even more.
Yeah, I would certainly think so. And with the struggles the offensive line has had recently, especially up the middle. And on top of that, you know that Drew Lock does some bad things when he's blitzed and he throws off his back foot and he makes decisions that he shouldn't make. So if I'm Brian Flores, unless Drew Lock beats me multiple times while bringing pressure, that's what I'm doing. I'm dialing up blitz after blitz after blitz. And this just brings me to the question, guys, and I can't believe that this is a question, but I think it's a fair one. Do the Broncos have a better chance to win this game with Drew Lock or Brett Rypien under the circumstances this week?
I don't think the gulf is as wide as we would have thought it was, say, before the start of the season. I mean, I think they do have a better chance with Drew Lock because he does have more arm talent. We could see Brett Rypien against the Jets, although he did a good job getting things right pre-snap, getting the protections right. He had some bad throws, and we have to also remember everything Brett Rypien did, well and good, it was against the New York Jets. It was against the worst team on the schedule. And the Dolphins, you start for where the Dolphins are stronger. They're much stronger at cornerback than the New York Jets were. This is actually one of the better cornerback tandems that the Broncos are going to see. And if Rypien is out there, he might be throwing the ball in the direction he wants to put it in, but it might be a case where you're giving the cornerbacks a chance to make a jump and get some picks in the game. So, I think that they're better off with Drew Lock, but I will say that the gap isn't as wide as it would have been thought to be 3 months ago.
This is going to drive me nuts if it happens, but I think that because of the game plan that the Broncos will in turn use, I think, if Brett Rypien is the quarterback, I think that there's at least an argument to be made here, which is, you've got this backup quarterback going up against a blitz-heavy team. What you're just going to have to do is run the football. And that is going to be so frustrating to watch if that's the case, because that should be the formula for the Broncos against any team with a young quarterback. And yes, they still have a young quarterback in Drew Lock. And so, they're going to treat Brett Rypien in his second start kind of, with the young quarterback gloves. But for some reason, Drew Lock in his 11th or 12th isn't getting the same treatment. And I think that's been a big part of the mismanagement on the offensive side of the ball for the Broncos is, not acting like being a run-first team is their best chance of winning every week. You got two true Pro Bowlers back there in the backfield. Even the biggest Drew Lock supporters aren't going to be able to tell you that he's a Pro Bowler, especially, not even a prospective Pro Bowler this year. So the game plan for the Broncos is to run the football. And you might actually be able to make the case that if they start Brett Rypien, they're going to run the football more, which is the problem, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the case I'm going to make. Mace, I can't disagree with anything you said. I think you're spot on. But I'm going to say this, and it's just wild. I think the Broncos have a better chance of winning. Now, maybe that's not the good thing and the best thing in this game, but I think they have a better chance of winning with Brett Rypien for two reasons. One, Brett Rypien gets the ball out quick. That's something that you're going to need to do, whether it's to protect Drew or not. So he gets the ball out quicker than Drew Lock. So that's a credit to Brett. Now, is he going to make as many big plays and have the potential for big plays as Drew Lock? Absolutely not. But I think in this game, getting the ball out quick is more important. And then the second point is exactly what Ryan said. If they are starting Brett Rypien, they will view him as a guy that has one career start, as an undrafted rookie or undrafted second-year guy. And so they're going to, I would think, build the game plan around him. Now, maybe they don't, and they drop back 50 times and only hand the ball off to their two-star running backs a total of 15 times like they have in the past 2 weeks. But you can actually run the ball against the Miami Dolphins, guys. They give up 4.7 yards per carry. In the past 3 weeks, they've given up 99 yards, 131 yards, and 175 yards on the ground. You can run the ball. So no matter who your quarterback is, You have to run the ball. I don't care if you're down 4 points at halftime. That's what the Broncos were last week. And Philip Lindsay got one touch, one handoff in the second half. I don't care who the quarterback is. You have to run the ball. And I just think, like Ryan said, I think they will be more concerned on running the ball if it's Brett Rypien back there. And so, as crazy as it is, this week, I think Brett Rypien gives them a better chance.
Yeah, and as much as this is an indictment on Drew, which it is, that you're saying that, they have a better chance of winning without him, it's a much bigger indictment on the coaching staff, in my opinion, and specifically Pat Shurmur. If you have to be forced into giving your team the best chance to win, you're doing something wrong. And that's been very obvious, especially over the last couple of weeks, that they're doing something wrong. You simply cannot live like that. And that's what they've been trying to do. So it's a bad situation for the Broncos, really, because like we've been saying for weeks now, something's going to have to change after the season, whether that's the quarterback or the offensive coordinator. The marriage that they were hoping for there has not materialized in any way, shape, or form. And we will keep saying that the best thing is for it to materialize over the end of the season here. And maybe, just maybe, they start Brett Rypien this week. They run the ball 40 times. They win the football game, and they realize, oh, that's why we have 2 Pro Bowl running backs. Okay, all right, this makes sense. This works. And then Drew Lock comes back in, and they do that, and they start running more play action, which they did early in the game last week, but stopped doing it when, of course, they stopped running the ball. So maybe in the end, that's the best thing for these Broncos. Guys, if you had to make your prediction now, though, who starts a quarterback for the team?
Drew, because he's trending that way. So I do think that Drew Lock gets the start.
I think Brett and I think Drew is there as the backup. It maybe is a situation like the Chargers game back in 2009 where Chris Sims started, but Kyle Orton, even though he wasn't healthy 100%, was healthy enough to be the backup. Of course, you hope it works out better if they do that.
That's a bad
because
comparison.
Chris Sims was so bad that Kyle Orton basically had to hobble back on the field and play most of what I believe was a 32-3 route or something like that.
That was as bad as it gets in terms of managing the quarterbacks.
Guys,
definitely don't do this. Put Brett Rypien in and then put Drew Lock in a game that's already lost.
Oh
no.
Yeah.
Guys, tell me if I'm crazy. If Drew Lock does not start because he's not healthy, he should not have a jersey, and I would rather see Jeff Driscoll and or Blake Bortles come in before I see Drew Lock, because learn from when you played the Jets and what they did to Mekhi Becton was malpractice. The word of the day. Do not have malpractice to your quarterback. Don't do that.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I've been all week really thinking that it was going to be Brett Rypien, but unless the Broncos are, playing games, the message coming out of there certainly feels like it's going to be Drew Lock. So that's my prediction. I don't think it's the best thing for the Broncos or Drew Lock to play him in this football game. But on the other side, Drew Lock, who is in search of brownie points right now, will earn a lot of brownie points if somehow, some ways, he goes out there hurt and finds a way to lead the team to a win. That will go a long way in the locker room. I think it'll also go a long way with the fan base. That's a very John Elway-esque move, even going all the way down to the ribs, to go out there and play with hurt ribs and lead the team.
But that being said, if he goes out there and starts and it's obvious he's in discomfort and the performance isn't there, do you have a short leash on him?
Oh, boy, that would be the worst thing.
Exactly. That's something I think you have to think about here, that if he goes out there and clearly he's in discomfort and then you pull him mid-game, it's sort of the look of that, the perception of that.
Yeah, it's really bad. I hope that doesn't happen, because to me, the moment that Drew Lock gets benched in a game is probably like the end of the line. Now, this one might be a little different because I guess after the game you could say, well, we thought he was feeling good, but then he got hit, which we never saw coming. And now, then he re-aggravated the injury, and we got him out of there to protect him.
You're actually getting that info out there ASAP. That's one where, there are some injuries, maybe you don't announce them in the press box. That's one where if that is the scenario, you make sure that info is made available to the media, made available to the broadcasts. So it's out there, and you say, okay, you're at least establishing the storyline that it is entirely injury related and not performance related.
I can almost see it happening right now. It's like unfolding right before my eyes.
Yep. Guys, if you're Andy Locke, Drew's dad, and Drew's agent, what are you telling him to do? Because we know that Andy Locke is, a tough guy. He raised Drew to be very tough. Drew told us yesterday that injury last week was not something where he could have gone home to his dad, back in his younger days and said, Dad, I just couldn't play the second half. He said that wouldn't have been right because it was an injury he could play through. But even with that, are you telling him to tough it out, or are you telling him to take a step back and take this week off?
I don't think that's in the Locke DNA.
It's not. Yeah.
To take a step back and sit a week out to try and, feel a little better. I think that he's telling him if you could play, you go play. You're the starting quarterback of the football team. You got to go out there and lead those guys to a win.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he would say. But if I'm his agent, I would say, Drew, there is some good that can come out of this, and we talked about it. The win, you're hurt, that can get you a lot of brownie points. But I think there's a lot more bad that can come out. And I think we've broken down everything that can go bad, including physical harm and his future in Denver being shaped in a big way this week.
Yeah. At this point, there's not that there. I guess there is stuff that can be gained. If you're looking at it from a rosy colored glasses perspective, the gain here is you go win the game, and of course there's a lot to be gained there for Drew Lock against this Miami Dolphins defense. It is so weird talking about like a vaunted Miami Dolphins defense. It's taken me all week to just be able to say that without thinking I'm saying something incorrect. But it's true. For us, it's a lot easier to look at this defense and say, you don't want to be out there. But I think for Drew, it's a lot easier for him to look at the film and say, I know how to beat these guys. And I want to go try and prove that.
Well, what's interesting, the defense, it's vaunted, but it's giving up some yards. And you look at this Miami team, guys, and I did a little number crunching this week. I'm thinking, because I'm watching the film and I'm like, okay, it doesn't exactly make sense that this team is 6-3. How is it getting there? Well, first of all, turnover margin is a big thing, but also just this is an outlier of a team. If you go back the last 30 years, they are the 137th team that has, through 9 games, been outgained by 50 yards a game, outgained per play by a quarter of a yard, and has been negative 20 in first downs over the course of those 9 games. Those other teams, guys, averaged 2.5 wins and 6.5 losses. And the interesting thing, of the 15 previous teams that had winning records, most of them had regression because only 6 of those 15 made the playoffs. So the Miami, they're a great story, but they also look like a huge regression candidate coming up here, and maybe you catch them in that moment.
You heard it here first. The Dolphins are frauds.
Yeah, apparently. I'm not buying it one bit, though, Mason. Maybe it's because I'm wearing some crimson colored glasses, but I think the Dolphins are in fantastic hands. But their defense is very much a bend, don't break defense.
Right.
It's what we've seen from the Broncos before the Broncos actually do break, except the Dolphins defense doesn't break. The Dolphins defense gives up yards. They won a game where they gave up over 500 yards. Like I said, they gave up 175 yards on the ground just a few weeks ago, but they won that game. What they're really good at It is not breaking, not giving up big play after big play. And then also, Mace, you said it, which is something that can't be discounted, turnovers. They have a turnover in every single game this year, and their offense, without Ryan Fitzpatrick, does not turn the ball over.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible what they're doing in terms of generating takeaways. I believe they're the only team in the league that has forced at least one turnover in every game. And the interesting thing is that, like, early in the season, it wasn't a great team in terms of takeaways and turnover margin. The first 4 games of the season, guys, they were dead even. They started off 1-3, dead even in turnover margin, and then since then they've exploded. They're plus 5 in the last 5 games.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you get pressure on the quarterback is you force turnovers. And they are pressuring the quarterback a lot right now. And if Drew is going to have any success as we talk about the game plan here, if he does play, he's really going to have to be at his best when it comes to getting to the line, seeing where the blitz is coming from, identifying the mic, sliding the line, the communication between him and Cushenberry and the guard positions, all of that is going to be needed at an all-time high. And unfortunately, not just from Drew, but from everyone in those positions, the communication has not been great or the execution has not been great. One of the two, sometimes both. So whether it's Brett or Drew, that's going to have to be at an all-time high. And Brett, to his credit, did a really good job about that when he was in there. And a lot of people say, oh, Drew never changes anything at the line. That's not true. But he definitely needs to do a better job of it. And this week, he's going to have to do a great job of it. And not just that, but also hot routing his receivers and getting it to them. Because when you go up against a team who wants to send, 0 blitzes, they are inviting big plays. But you have to see them. You got to identify them. And you got to be able to put the wide receivers in a position to get them. When there's a big gap in the middle of the field between the safeties and the linebackers, you just run a little drag right behind that line where those guys are blitzing from, and you get the ball into the hands of KJ Hamler or Jerry Jeudy, and those guys are going to be off to the races. So that there's a lot of negative towards defenses bringing blitzes, but if you can get your guys into the right positions, then you can get them to stop. The problem is not just Drew, not just the offensive line, not just all that. Also, Pat Shurmur has done a terrible job of calling plays to keep those defenses on their heels. So there's a scary combination of things here for me, which is the offensive line doesn't do a good job of picking up blitzes. Drew is not as good as he could be at identifying blitzes, and Pat Shurmur doesn't call good plays to stop defenses from blitzing. I don't like that combination, especially with a banged-up quarterback.
Yeah, no. That's really tough. And one thing that Drew's going to have to do is he can throw the ball deep, but it's just going to have to be quick. It's going to have to be a quick drop back and then launch it. Put it up for your receivers. Trust Jerry Jeudy. Just like Brett Rypien did when he played the Jets. He trusted Jerry Jeudy, didn't even throw a great ball, but Jerry Jeudy went up and got it. Drew's going to have to do that. So it's not saying, Drew, don't make the big plays. It's saying, Drew, whether it's a 3-yard slant or whether it's a 40-yard pass downfield, do it quick. Get the ball out quick. Dude, especially being injured. Do not try to play hero ball. Do not try to run around back there because you're only going to get yourself hurt, and it's likely not going to help your offense.
Well, and the other thing is you got to make sure you got help from Lloyd Cushenberry up front. And when this topic of pre-snap protections and adjusting came up yesterday during the press availability, it was made clear that it starts with a joint effort between the quarterback and the center. So you've got a lot of youth there in that duo with Drew Lock in his second season and Lloyd Cushenberry in his rookie season. And Drew made the point yesterday that, hey, when he was out there last year, he had someone in Connor McGovern who was a 4-year veteran who had played multiple positions and had been the starter at center for a full season, basically, before Drew Lock was working there. So, some of that keeping Drew Lock upright, it's going to have to fall on Lloyd Cushenberry. And when you know that Brian Flores is going to dial up some creative stuff, probably to try and confuse Lloyd Cushenberry, this is going to be as much on him and getting the protections right as it is on Drew Lock.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we talked a lot about offense here, so let's just quickly touch on the defensive side of the ball. For the Broncos, who have now given up 30 points in 3 consecutive games, what can they do to slow down this very efficient Miami Dolphins offense?
Yeah, and that's it. They're efficient. They're not a powerhouse on offense, but they're efficient. You have to make them not as efficient. You have to rattle Tua, and that's going to be tough. But he's a rookie, and you got to rattle him. He's a guy that has not been rattled yet. And Vic Fangio is a guy that can have success against that. So I'm doing what has worked for the Broncos defense, and I'm bringing pressure. And if Tua beats me, well, Tua beats me. A rookie on the road in one of his first few games, I'll give it to him then. And Tua is very well capable of that. But that's what I'm doing because it's what my defense is good at, and you're facing a young rookie.
Yeah, you're bringing pressure, and even though you've been gashed on the ground in 2 of the last 3 games, you're not particularly worried about the Dolphins' running game heading into this. In 4 of the last 5 games, guys, they haven't even averaged 3.7 yards per carry. And it's not something they need to establish in order to win. So you're bringing the pressure. You're trying to force Tua into some rookie decisions. And the other thing, guys, is that even if they do get some momentum, you're just going to try to limit the damage early. This is a team that likes to get out in front and play from ahead. They're 6-0 when they lead at halftime. They're 0-3 when they're trailing at halftime. So this is another game, guys, where the Broncos, even though they failed to do it, they have to figure out how to have a good start.
Yeah, you're finally getting back to a team where they're less two-dimensional, and you are going to be able to get back to that formula that was working for a few weeks for Vic Fangio, which is send a lot of pressure. And yes, Tua can get out of the pocket with his feet, which means you have to be, disciplined out there on the edge. But he's not, a guy who is going to win a game just on running the ball, like a Kyler Murray or a, Lamar Jackson. So he might beat you a couple times and and break your contain and make a big play downfield. But you just have to be prepared to try and throw him off, because if you allow him to sit back there, what he does really well that Drew Lock hasn't shown to be great at so far is getting through his reads. He will sit back there and go 1, 2, 3 and get rid of it. And so if you give him time to go through his reads, he'll go through his reads. And we know that, that's really difficult for a defense to hold up against. So you got to bring pressure so that he doesn't have time to get through those reads. Force him to be a 1 or 2 read quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. And that would be huge. That would maybe force him into some bad decisions as well. And Tua has not thrown an interception yet. Guys, do you think that comes this week?
Yes.
Are you willing to take your shot?
I'm my 58-yard field goal is going to be Justin Simmons getting the pick.
I like that. I mean, he's the pick master in Denver.
Yeah, and especially going up against a young quarterback. I mean, he was able to make a play on the ball against Justin Herbert a few weeks ago, too.
Yep.
He was. All right, well, we finish here with AFC West predictions, and that, of course, includes our Broncos prediction. So let's start around the rest of the league here, and then we'll come back to the Broncos for the last part of the live here.
And let's start off with the worst game that's going on in the AFC West this week. And no, it's not the Broncos game. It's the New York Jets going into LA to play the Chargers. The line has just continued to grow throughout the week. They're currently 9.5-point favorites over the Jets on DraftKings Sportsbook. Guys, who do you like here?
Well, as long as it doesn't move to 10, I'm okay with taking this. I have a new rule where I don't take double-digit point spreads in the NFL. I think that the Chargers know how to beat one team, and that will be the Jets. But to be honest, I won't be completely surprised if they somehow blow it. But the Jets are that bad that I'll even give a team that doesn't know how to win football games 9.5 points against them.
Well, either way, there's going to be an overreaction to Justin Herbert's decision to trim his locks and not have that cascading flow of hair out the back of his helmet. Because if the Chargers win, hey, people are going to say, hey, guess it was a good thing he cut his hair. No. You beat the Jets. That barely counts at this point. No offense to every team that's beaten the Jets, including the Broncos, but they're barely an NFL club. They're probably a CFL club masquerading as an NFL club. And if the Jets win and Herbert struggles, then oh my God, he shouldn't have cut his hair. So he's kind of in a no-win scenario this week in terms of what happens. That said, the Chargers are so much better than the Jets. I think they're going to take out some of their frustrations on the guys from New York. So I'm taking the Chargers, even though they're given 9.5.
Yeah, give me the Chargers as well. This really, really should not be a close game, and 10 points at home the Chargers should be capable of that.
I'll say this though: if Joe Flacco plays as well as he did against the Patriots, I don't think the Chargers will cover.
Well, will Joe Flacco play as well?
I don't know. He looked like he was in his prime there against the Pats.
Just 1 year too late.
And he looked elite.
The Broncos missed out on the prime. They got rid of him too early.
Oh boy, could you imagine if that was John's explanation at the end of the season?
Should have held on to Joe.
All right, guys, let's move to another new stadium in the AFC West. Chiefs. Sunday Night Football, heading in to Las Vegas to play the Raiders with that fake flame in the stadium. Chiefs, 8-point favorites. This is another line that has just continued to climb throughout the week. Went from 6 to 8 now, so it could continue to grow. Who do you guys like?
Yeah, the Raiders' flame in their stadium is real, but the flame on their football team is fake. But the flame on their football team is real. That is a legitimate, balanced NFL football team that I just don't think is going to get blown out. I don't know if they win. Beating the Chiefs 2 times in a season is really difficult. In fact, I doubt anyone's done that in a really long time. So I don't think they're going to win, but I do think they keep it close. I think this is probably a field goal game with Patrick Mahomes making some Mahomes magic at the end to ensure that the Chiefs win. But I don't think that I think that the 8 points is too much. People, I guess they couldn't bet on the Chiefs last week, so people are just hammering them this week. I think it's a little too high.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see how the Raiders lines look over the years playing in Vegas and perhaps having more people that are local betting on them than otherwise, because you'd think there would be a little bit of a bump for the Raiders here, but that doesn't exist. The thing that gets me, though, is you have a bunch of players on the defensive side that have not been able to prep for this game because they're on the COVID-19 list right now because of close contacts. You may see them back on Sunday. You may not see them back on Sunday, depending on how things go. And you need every ounce of preparation you can get against the Chiefs team that is going to be uber motivated. I don't think the Chiefs win by 20 or 25. I do think they win by 10. So give me Kansas City.
Oh, man, guys, I'm going back and forth. You both make really good arguments. What I can't get over is the Chiefs losing. This is their only loss of the season to the Raiders. So I don't think they're just going to want to win. I think they're going to want to destroy the Raiders. But primetime game, I'll say it stays within a touchdown. So once that win over 7, I'm going to stick with the Raiders to cover the spread. Chiefs are absolutely going to win this game. And Mace, I wouldn't be, even though I'm taking the other way, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 20-plus point blowout.
This is a tough conversation to have on a Broncos podcast, but if the Raiders win, do they start getting some buzz as a dark horse Super Bowl pick?
100%
I think they should.
They do. Yeah. Beating the Chiefs twice. I mean, and look, they haven't been great against all high-level teams. Tampa Bay ate their lunch a few weeks back, but if you beat the Chiefs twice, you've established your bona fides. There's going to be a second look taken at Derek Carr's season. He's going to get more attention nationally. I think Josh Jacobs is going to get more play nationally as well. They'll enter the they will enter the chat, so to speak, in terms of legitimate Super Bowl discussion, and it's not gonna be considered Kansas City and the three stragglers. They're gonna be regarded as a legitimate challenger in the division and beyond.
Devontae Booker may get some national attention if this happens.
Oh man.
So yeah, that's an interesting game. It's definitely one that will do some good ratings, I bet, on Sunday Night Football.
Oh yes. And then final one, of course, we have the Dolphins, 3.5-point favorites. It's really stayed right around 3, at least the past few days. Coming into Denver, the Mile High City, to take on the Broncos with who knows who their starting quarterback's going to be. Guys, 3.5 points. What do you think about that line for Miami going on the road?
It's not enough. It's not enough. I've talked all week on our bet show about how if Brett Rypien starts, I can just see, the NFL just throws curveballs, and out of nowhere, you just get hit with one when you least expect it. So maybe I could see that, but, the logic in me is just saying this Broncos offense is broken. It has been for a couple weeks now, and the Dolphins do everything that the Broncos offense hates well. So just because of that, I can't pick the Broncos to cover this spread. In fact, I'm more inclined to warn Broncos fans that this is going to be a tough one than I am to pick them to cover that spread. So, give me the Dolphins. Hate to do it, but it's what I feel.
Mace?
I mentioned earlier in this pod that Miami, by the numbers, is a regression candidate. But then I think to myself, I keep seeing this team get shredded week after week. They're going to play another game without Shelby Harris. So even though Miami isn't a strong running team that's going to sap the ability to get pressure, even though you want to try to get pressure on Tua, it's going to be harder to do without Shelby Harris up front with an entirely backup defensive line. I don't think it's a blowout, but I think the Dolphins win by 4 to 8 points.
4 to 8 points. So, Mace, what would you say of a 14-point game? Is that a blowout?
It's a blowout for me is 17 or more, 3 scores.
Yep.
Okay, then it's not going to be a blowout to me either, but I do think it'll be a 2-touchdown game. I'm shocked that this line is only 3.5 and that it hasn't changed throughout the week with uncertainty at quarterback. Hasn't changed at all. This really surprises me. The Dolphins under Tua are averaging over 30 points per game, just over that in their 3 games with him. He has not turned the ball over. He has not thrown an interception. And guys, this Miami defense is bend, don't break. Well, they're not going to have to worry about breaking just with the way this Broncos offense has been. They give up the 5th fewest points per game in 20. But going up against the Broncos, they're going to look better than that. I'm going 30-16. The Dolphins win.
And the thing is, Zach, what have the Broncos done the last few weeks? They've struggled in the first half. Well, in the last 5 games, guys, Miami has scored 30, 21, 28, 24, and 17 points in the first halves of games. So this team that can't seem to get out of the blocks at all now faces a team that is arguably the fastest starting team in the league right now. So I feel like it's going to be the game flow is going to be one where the Broncos fall behind, make it closer at the end.
Oh, man.
Before.
All I'm thinking is, here's another 50 dropbacks for name your quarterback for the Broncos.
No.
Yeah, yep. It's like, the more we talk about it, the worse the formula gets. It's just a really bad formula for this Broncos team. So, it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Sucks. All right. That's going to wrap it up for us on the live side of things. Of course, we'll move over to the podcast side of things. Not the most fun conversation, but we would love if you hit us with a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. And we'd love if you tune in to the rest of the podcast anywhere that you get podcasts and leave us a review there too. So for right now, we will talk to you guys on the live after the game.